Yeah, about a little over a year ago now, EPB, which is our municipally owned electric power board, that's what EPB stands for, we made an announcement to the world that we had completed a 100% fiber optic network capable of delivering up to a gigabit data speeds to every home and business in the Chattanooga area. It's 600 square mile coverage area, 170,000 homes and businesses. So all of those can get up to a gig, and this is exactly what Google caused great excitement about planning to do in Kansas City, and they're still on the drawing board, and we're more than a year into actually having this asset. Over the last year, we've done a public relations campaign to promote the fact that we have this. We've networked with something called the Intelligent Community Forum, which is a economic development think tank focused on the economic value of having ubiquitous broadband. We've made connections with the National Science Foundation, which is starting up a process to kind of create the next generation economy based on ultra broadband. We've made connections with researchers that are doing applications for the gig internet all over the country, and positioned ourselves as the only living laboratory, the only place where they can take these applications and test them with a real live audience. What we announced yesterday was what we're calling GigCity Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's an initiative to communicate both internally and externally about the intention of this community to define and pioneer what can happen, what a community can do when when bandwidth is no longer a barrier. So there have already been a number of things that have been what we would call kind of killer apps. So the first one is that EPB is rolling out a smart grid. This is something everybody talks about, but this is the first and only one in the United States that's built on top of a fiber optic network. So whereas everybody else that's doing smart grid can kind of manage their system with like a half a day or a day lag or more, EPB can do theirs in real time. They can see power consumption in real time and make decisions based on that. The next layer is that we have a number of programs that we've been working on for some time to encourage more young entrepreneurial, technology-oriented, all those good kinds of things, ventures. One of those programs is an outgrowth of Create Here. It's called CoLab. Essentially, it is a place where people with a technology-oriented kind of a business idea can come. They have some shared workspace so that they can get together and, work in that space. He can connect those folks with appropriate mentors and other resources. And they do a couple of events every year, like one called 48-Hour Launch. And it's basically a 48-hour intensive, bring your idea, we'll bring, some lawyers and accountants and other kinds of resources and help you try to whip it into, an actual business plan at the end of the 48 hours. And that's been very successful. A second program that's going on is called Lamppost, and this is actually a privately funded incubator. It's a group of young businessmen who started a company called Access America. Their focus was on bringing technology solutions to the trucking and logistics industry. And they've grown it into a $200 million a year enterprise. They're all late 20s, early 30s. And so they decided one of the things they wanted to do was to help other young ventures get started. And they have about 6 companies now that are all co-housed within a space that they own. And they give them seed funding. They provide them, so young venture comes along and they're really good at doing X. Creating their product or whatever. They're probably, not very good at maybe accounting or marketing, so they have a shared set of resources that all of these businesses can use so that the entrepreneurs can focus on the core of their business product or service and then these kind of systems that every business has to have, but maybe not every business is very good at, especially when your business consists of 1 or 2 or 3 people. They put those in place. So that's another thing that's going on in that space. The Chamber runs one of the largest business incubators in the United States. It's a former manufacturing facility that kind of became defunct. And Hamilton County, which is the county that Chattanooga is located in, kind of received that derelict building, refurbished it. The Chamber leases it from the county for $1 a year, and we use it as an incubator space. There are about 60 businesses under one roof. Those businesses employ in aggregate about 300 people. And while they're there, they have below market lease rates for a period of 3 years, and it becomes gradually more expensive. There is something called the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, which is they help with business planning and variety. They do workshops for businesses and things like that. So that's an on-site resource. The Chattanooga Technology Council has offices there, so that's another resource. And these businesses basically have a 3-year program of development where they can't even get in until they have a business plan. And then they have to do certain things to stay in the program for those 3 years. And then they graduate. Every year we graduate about 20 businesses. And they go into the market economy. We have about a 91% success rate for the companies that start in the incubator still being in existence 5 years afterwards. So those 3 programs all work together, and there are synergies among them. We've had companies come out of the co-lab that then spent their first few years at the incubator that we run, and all of that is designed to create an ecology of entrepreneurial activity and support for those groups. So one of the things that occurred was that Chattanooga in the early 80s was losing population, was really kind of lost in its identity of itself. And the visioning process helped us establish really a few relatively simple things that we all work on. It wasn't so much, and I think this is a valuable point, you ended up with a pretty detailed action plan, but a lot of times over the last few decades, we've all been working on things based on the set of principles of downtown revitalization and reconnecting with the river, making this the best mid-sized city in America. And that's simple enough that even when we're not doing a project, and we frequently are not, that's directly related to any of the action items. In fact, I only got here in 2002. I couldn't tell you really what those first projects were. But we've continued to operate on those principles, and it serves as a coordinating strategy. So you've got a bunch of different organizations that may or may not be, we're frequently working together, but even when we're not, our efforts are complementary because we're all operating according to those principles.